everyone. Welcome to Jija Hot Show. This is the 51 episode. I'm the host, James Wen, and today we have a very special guest, Judge David S. Milton. He's born in Pasadena, California, and he's running for the DA office for Los Angeles. We want to get to know Judge Milton a little bit. Welcome, Judge Milton.
Well, thank you for having me on your show, James.
Let's briefly introduce his background a little bit. He was born in Pasadena, but raised in Indianapolis. Went into military service, studied in law school, and passed his California's bar exam in first try. And he joined the LA County DA office for a number of years, and then was appointed as a judge by Governor Duke Majan, and as well as Pete Wilson, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then he retired as a bench judge. Is that
right?
I
left the bench in 2014.
Okay, and then he went into private practice, doing mediation, arbitration, and now he wants to come back out from retirement and running for DA. We want to learn more about Judge Milton, and tell us a little bit more detail about yourself.
Yeah, I'll need to do that, James, for just the context of some of the topics I want to touch upon today. But again, thank you for having me on your show. I've been a lawyer for 45 years. And of those 45 years, 36 of those years were in public service. 24 years as a judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court, 12 years as a prosecutor. But before I continue on, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background so your audience can understand a little bit about my views on some of the topics we'll be discussing.
Absolutely.
I spent that first 20 years in Indianapolis, and I'm from a large family, seven of us, 7 kids, but we were raised in a Judeo-Christian family. We were required to go to church 3 to 4 days a week. I didn't always want to go, but I went.
And that's a very devoted follower.
As it turned out, I'm glad I went, frankly. And we're a military family. My dad was a Marine. My oldest brother was a Marine. I was expected to join the Marine Corps, but my oldest brother was hit in Vietnam. He recovered, but that caused me to change my make a different choice. I joined the Army Reserves for 6 years, but I had another brother in the Navy and one in the Army, and so we were a military family. We're very proud. We're patriotic. But some of your listeners probably are unaware of the climate in this country, especially in the Midwest. The culture in the 60s, it was racially tense there in that part of the country. And so through the years, I suffered a lot of those indignities. But they didn't make me angry. I think it's probably because of my Christian upbringing. Experiencing those things kind of made me a stronger person. It made me a person who was, well, let me put it like this. I don't tolerate injustices. Now, let's think that out. You're a Christian person, but you went through a lot of bad times back there based on your color. Well, I don't like to see people being mistreated. That's the bottom line. And so I think that's what kind of led me into the career path that I took. So fast forward, I returned to California. I began my career as a deputy district attorney for Los Angeles County. And in that career path, I matriculated up pretty quickly. The crimes against police officer section, the career criminal division, the hardcore gang division. I was deputy in charge of the Downey office of the district attorney. But the assignment that I'm most proud of was in the hardcore gang division. I tried some of the most difficult cases one could handle in any jurisdiction in this entire country, state or federal. Mm-hmm. To give you an example of the difficulty of those cases, they were all criminal cases, of course, and sometimes 2 juries were required. Multiple defendants, multiple victims. Most of them were gang murders. That's where I did most of my work, gang murders. Some we sought the death penalty, some we did not. As a prosecutor, and I don't say this in a celebratory way, but as a prosecutor, I was able to achieve 2 death verdicts. As a judge, I sentenced a man to death. These were the types of cases that I handled throughout my career. This is the type of experience one should have if you are the district attorney for a county like Los Angeles County, where we still have this prevalent gang activity and very serious crimes happening throughout this county. So to continue on in my career path, after my career in the DA's office, the district attorney's office, Los Angeles County, I was appointed judge of the Los Angeles Municipal Court by former Governor George Duke Majan. I spent 5 years on that bench. I was then asked to become chief assistant prosecutor in Indianapolis. The purpose was to handle the case against Mike Tyson. I'm sure you're aware of that name. And it was believed that former President George H.W. Bush would appoint me to the federal court in Indianapolis. Well, as it turns out, former President Bush was unsuccessful in his reelection bid against President Clinton. And so I returned to California as assistant chief trial counsel with the state bar. That's where I managed a team of lawyers who were charged with prosecuting bad lawyers, unscrupulous lawyers. So I did that for about 1.5 years, and then former Governor Pete Wilson appointed me judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court. So that court merged, so it's no longer a municipal court. It's the entire court is the Superior Court of Los Angeles, or the state of California. Well, I did that for many years, and in 2014 I left and became a private judge where, as you mentioned earlier, I do arbitrations and mediations. But people probably want to know why I'm wanting to, or would leave my private practice and return to public service. It's quite simple. The present district attorney, George Gascon, has been completely derelict in executing the duties of that office. He stubbornly refuses to follow the law. He has an agenda. There's a narrative. And I want to explain that for a second. I want you to think about the placement of what we call these soft done crime district attorneys throughout this country. Who do we have in New York? Alvin Bragg. Who do we have in Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, San Francisco, and Los Angeles? George Gascon. Why are they there should be the question of the citizens of here in Los Angeles County as far as George Gascon. Think about this. Mr. Gascon has never tried a case in his entire career. Now, how is he the district attorney of the largest county, the largest prosecution agency in this entire country, when he has never tried a case? Not a misdemeanor, not a felony, nothing. So you guess, well, how did that happen? Well, there is a billionaire, his name is George Soros, and he has placed these soft on crime prosecutors in these strategic cities throughout this country. And they have an agenda, in my view. It's not quite apparent to some, but they do have an agenda. Think about what they do. They don't bring people into prison, and they want to release people from prison. And you know, I think what I'd like to do is share a story. I may have shared this on another episode, but at this time I'd like to share the story again so people understand what I mean. I want to tell you about the most dangerous man I have ever met. in my entire career, in all the cases I've handled. This man was in prison for manslaughter. He got a manslaughter. He ran over someone's head and killed them. He got a manslaughter out of that. He was released back onto society. 2 weeks after his release, he went into a park and he saw 3 teenage boys smoking marijuana with their girlfriends. He approaches those boys and demands that they get out of the park. This is my park. Mm-hmm. And of course, these boys with their girlfriends and they're smoking, yeah, right, buddy. Yeah, well, he grabbed one teenage boy in a headlock like this, and he puts a gun barrel up to his eye socket and discharges it into his head. He kills that boy instantly. Mm-hmm. He grabs the second boy in a headlock, and he puts the gun barrel touching his cheek, a contact, what we call a contact wound, and he discharges it, and then he puts it into the boy's eye socket and discharges it. Of course, kills him instantly. Mm-hmm. The third young man is running away, and this man is shooting at him, and he hits him a couple of times, but this young man survives that attack. Well, we were in front of a jury trial. This was a jury trial I was handling. I was sitting probably 10 to 15 feet away from this man for 5 months putting on this trial. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks after these park murders, he went to this young couple's house. He believed the young couple informed the LA County Sheriff of the park killings, which they had not. Mm-hmm. Well, here's what the crime scene looked like, James. We have the young husband in a recliner chair, reclined back, and we know the defendant was stooped down to his left side, like if he were talking to him or something. And he now has a gunshot wound from the cheek and upward moving. The projectile went from the cheek and up that way. He then has a gunshot wound to the very top of his skull. We then have a house slipper there, a house slipper there, and the young wife is near the threshold of the door with 2 gunshot wounds in her head. Now, the coroner retrieved those bullets from their bodies, and the park bullets matched the bullets for the young couple. Let me tell you else about this man. When I first met him, he had a completely shaved head that was covered with tattoos. Gang tattoos everywhere, covering his entire scalp. His whole body was covered with cat tattoos, with the exception of his hands. Well, he came to court every day. His hair had grown out, probably not quite as long as yours. And you couldn't see those tattoos, but maybe a few. He was wearing a tie and a suit like us. He looked like us. He had a pair of glasses. He looked like he could be a businessman. And he carried with him a Bible every day to court in front of the jury. Well, the jury didn't buy that. They found him guilty of all those murders, and they sentenced him to death. Well, off to prison he goes. Once he returns to prison, he starts killing other people in prison. He then launches a number of appeals. This type of case goes automatic to the California Supreme Court, and that's where it went. And the California Supreme Court said, no problem, affirmed, your conviction is affirmed. And the death penalty is affirmed. He then appeals it to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court says, your conviction is affirmed. He takes another reason up to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court again says, your conviction is affirmed. He then begins this lengthy, what we call appellate writ practice, where you can bring a writ in front of federal judges, and a lot of the federal judges denied his writ, but he got lucky one day, and the federal judge says, we're going to grant your writ. We're going to set aside the death verdict and give you life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Well, why did I tell you that story, James?
Why?
Because Mr. Gascon is trying to get him released now.
Really?
The most dangerous man I've ever met. Gascon is actively working today with Sacramento to release him. Now, there are 5,200 other people who have sentences that are life without the possibility of parole. Most people think, well, if you get convicted for murder, you go to life. Well, no. If you get convicted of a murder, a first-degree murder, you get 25 years to life. Well, what does that really mean? 25 years to life means you'll be out in 16 or 17 years if you behave while you're in prison. So it's only those special circumstances, murder, killing multiple people or torture murders or witness, those types of extreme cases that you can get death or life without parole. Those are what we call special circumstances murders. Well, 5,200 life without parole murders in our California Department of Corrections. Here is Gascon's proposal working with the California legislature. Anyone who has this life without parole sentence and you've done 20 years, you're entitled to immediate release. So I convicted that man in '87 when I was a DA, a deputy DA. So he's way over. He'll be ready for immediate release if Gascon gets his way and the California legislature approves this proposed legislation. That's one of the reasons I'm running against Gascon. I want to share another reason why, just how he's completely derelict. He stubbornly refuses to. I don't even think he cares about whether he's reelected, quite frankly, because he refuses to. The core mission of the district attorney's office is public safety. He doesn't care about public safety. Let me give you an example. You know about these smash and grab flash mob things that are happening all over the county?
Yes.
Everybody, you can't avoid not knowing those. Let's just look at this table and assume that's the merchant's display case with all his valuables for sale there. And here's the merchant standing behind the counter, or an employee, and there's the door out there. And a mob comes in with crowbars and sledgehammers, and they start smashing up all the and just taking everything that they can and running out. And that's a robbery. Because the law in California says that if you go into any establishment and you have the intent to steal anything of any value, it's at least a burglary. And if you use force or fear on the proprietors or the occupant, that's a robbery, a more serious crime. George Gascon refuses to file those as felony robberies or burglaries. He charges them, if you're charged at all, with misdemeanors, and you're released immediately. You just go do it again. And so this is how this is dangerous going on here, and that needs to stop. Let me tell you one other thing that George Gascon refuses to do. I took a few minutes to tell you about the indignities I suffered in Indiana in the 60s, and how it made me the person who I just don't like injustices. If you look at my platform, you'll see number one is hate crimes. You say, well, what are hate crimes? Well, it's any crime committed against anyone based on the color of their skin or their religion or their gender. So, and people do that. People, just because someone's Asian or Jewish or white, if you commit a crime against someone based on that, you should get 3 extra years in prison on top of the base crime. George Gascon has ordered his deputies not to file that. Why does he want to do that? Here's another one. I know we have some time constraints here, but let me just do one more. We have open borders. I think everybody, they try to pretend in Washington that we don't, but we do. We have wide open borders. All these people coming in. Here's a directive, an official policy of the District Attorney's Office of Los Angeles County. If an illegal person comes in and commits a felony in Los Angeles County, Don't charge them with the felony. Charge them with a misdemeanor or something less so they can avoid deportation. Well, why do you want that? Why do you want someone to come into Los Angeles County? Your duty is to protect the citizens of Los Angeles County. He has a policy in place right now to let them remain here and continue to be a risk to the citizens of Los Angeles County. This is appalling to me, and that's why I just can't wait to run against this guy. If the voters of this county give me a chance, I want to challenge him, and I can win. I'm going to return that office to its core mission, which is public protection. That's what I'm about. I'm law and order. There's nothing extreme about me at all. I'm the only Republican in this race. I'm the only person who will take a public stand that Israel has a right to defend itself and to continue to pursue its attackers until the attackers are no longer a threat. Well, you know what I just said? That's law. That's the law in the state of California. If you're attacked, you have a right to defend yourself, and if it's reasonable to do so, to alleviate and mitigate any danger against you, you can pursue your attacker until that person is no longer a threat. I just stated the law in California. So, Israel has a right to do that. And the reason I bring that up is because as a consequence of what happened on October 7th, you're seeing all these attacks on these college campuses against the Jewish students having to hide in their dorms and libraries and not attend classes due to attacks on them because of what happened over there in Israel. So I take a strong stand on that. I won't change my registration from Republican. I believe in Republican values, accountability, responsibility. You've got 12 candidates here, James. There's Gascon, so that leaves 11. 3 of those are to the left of Gascon. They're plants, in my view. They are hoping that if Gascon loses, one of them will get it and continue his failed policies. The others, we've got 2 ones who seem to get a lot of press, and that's Hatami, Jonathan Hatami. He used to be a Republican, but he changed to Democrat, because he knows LA County is a vast pool of Democratic voters. I won't do that. You got Nate Hochman. He changed his from Republican to no party preference for the same strategic reason. I won't fool or try to fool the voters of Los Angeles County. I'm transparent. I am proud of what I am. And like I said, there's nothing extreme about me at all. I'm common sense and reasonableness. So with all that said, I know we're limited in time. Do you have questions or any further inquiry of me?
Do you see any corruption within the DAs under the current administration?
With Gascon?
Yeah.
It's completely corrupt. That's exactly what I mean, James. It's completely corrupt. He will not carry out the mission, the office's mission. He's got that agenda. Here's what we do. Empty the prisons and release all these dangerous people onto the public. We've got open borders, so we have people coming into the country who intend to hurt us. He wants to disband the police. And take away your ability to defend yourself, take away your firearms. So if you think of having those things operating here, release the most dangerous people, let the most dangerous people come into the country, take away the police departments, and take away your guns. Where do you think that's going?
We might end up like Portland.
It's exactly, and that's the move from take it a step at a time. Socialism to complete communism, complete control over the populace. That's where it's going. That's my belief. And I'm a strong defender of the Second Amendment. I've been carrying a firearm for 35 years. I collect firearms. I believe people have a right to defend themselves in their homes. I don't believe anybody ought to be able to outgun the police, of course, with grenade launchers and all those types of things. We need to protect our police 100%. But people ought to have firearms, at the very least in their homes. Like I said, in Indiana, You can carry, just go get your CCW permit, your concealed weapon permit. You prove that you're not a felon, you're not mentally ill, and some proficiency with a firearm. You pay your $100 and you have a permit. And the crime rate is much lower there than it is here in Los Angeles County, where it's hard to get one. Mm-hmm. Think about that. I think here and back there in those other states, if you think twice of confronting someone at their ATM. If you think, well, that person might be armed. Not in California. Crime's out of control here. The media tries to portray it as something that it's not. Crime is out of control. And this county, if I'm district attorney, this will not be, that's my pledge, this will not be a sanctuary county. It won't be. I pledge that to the citizens.
Okay, very good. So today you have heard pretty much where Judge Milton stands on safety of the community, what he's intend to do when he become a DA. So Judge Milton, thank you very much for today. We learned something about you, and hopefully, you get to carry out your mission.
Well, I'd ask that your viewing audience to go to miltonforda.com to learn more about me, and I thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.
You're welcome.